You're telling me right now we got an All-American infield. If we had Nick Johnson right here, we got you with the 3-bag, you got you third base, you second base, Nick Johnson shortstop, and me at first base. Yeah, that's All-American, dog.
Nothing like stars from a paradise. Don't care because there's magic in the air tonight. Pretty girl in my ear, she the rarest type. Heaven on earth is right here tonight. I'm in the dream state. I'm in the dream state.
Let's do it. Listen, we got the Senders jersey, Kentucky Dunk Low with the white laces. We weren't playing games for this podcast episode. I mean, this is the real deal. They think we're playing games. We're not playing games. We're right into it. This episode is going to be all time, straight off the top, no script, no nothing. We got Ryan Starace. We got the return of Sam Johnson.
We're back, baby.
Yo, let's go. How we doing, boys?
Great. How are you?
Dude, doing amazing. I mean, come on. Now we got the pod going. We got the vault behind us. We can get a little shot of that. We got all the dunks. We got all the shoes, Jordans. We got them all. A couple customs. So what's been going on in the lives of you guys here? I mean, we've been for the people that don't know, we've had. Sure, a lot of them do know, but there's been a lot of good sends. I'd say a lot of great sends. Between the three of us. I mean, it was just pretty legendary what went down that summer at 2214. 2214. And since then, everybody's been off doing their thing. You know, Sam came to work at Reds. You've been coaching. So you just said you're back in action where? At Monmouth they just got back or what?
Monmouth University, yeah. They guys just got back about 2 weeks ago. Jumping into kind of the off-season action right now, getting in the weight room, stuff like that, getting the guys ready, you know.
And this was your first season at Monmouth, correct?
Yeah.
And where were you coaching before that?
So I did a stint at TCNJ College in New Jersey my first year out of college. Then I went up, got my master's degree from St. Lawrence University, upstate New York. That was hell, I'm not going to lie to you. The tundra, seriously.
You were
straight.
basically Canada, man.
It was Canada. I was 40 minutes away from Ottawa.
You're up there.
40 minutes away from Ottawa. It was an experience. I mean, like, you're brushing off your car full of snow every single day from October until March. But it was good. And then, you know, February I got the opportunity to come back home. You know, it was great to be able to have my parents and all these, you know, all my friends come to the games this year. You know, it's great to be back home. You know, you get to mess around with the friends on the weekends and stuff like that. So something you kind of get back to, right?
Yeah, it's good when you're back around everybody, especially when you were that far, you know. Is that where you went that's where you were the summer after we all, like, went out all the time?
Yep.
You went back up there.
That was my second year, yeah.
Because I remember once, you know, August came, it was you're like, dude, back to the grind. It's over.
Yeah,
it's over.
You hit the ground running. Yep.
And you were working every day. Sam and I were carrying the 15-foot blocks of wood with Peporo, as we told the story on the first pod. But yeah, so how did you like the switch going from that to now Monmouth, which is D1, pretty big program?
It was great, right? I mean, you know, I think just the level, you know, you understand that, you know, really the difference in the level. You know, I was a Division III player, you know, Susquehanna alumni, right?
Yes,
here.
sir. Yes, sir.
But you just see the different level of understanding, the different level of commitment that, you know, these guys have. And it's cool. It's, you know, being able to, you know, try to lift off that is pretty cool. I'm excited for that, you know.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Make the jump from D3 to D1 and then just kind of keep rolling from there.
Oh, yeah.
And Sam, what you got going on? You got to let the people know, fill them in.
Yeah, I've been working in the city with shoe surgeon. So I've been in a space, you know, where I could be creative, and it's just been nice to be able to, like, learn in that space with people that have the same interests as me. So it's been awesome. We spoken into existence, man.
We got to clip it in. I always say I'm going to clip it in, but I'm actually going to clip it in. You saying, like, yeah, I think I'm going to do the class. And
I post this guy's shoe surgeon all the time.
That dude's unreal.
He's, like, different level.
Unbelievable.
He might be the best ever.
Yeah.
But he basically just, he, like, makes a shoe. He doesn't, like, he might do some painting, but he puts every piece together.
Yeah.
Different materials. And he has, like, a class to, like, teach people how to do this. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, probably in the upcoming months, I definitely want to, like, take that class.
Yeah.
Just learn something new. I didn't know I'd end up, like, working with that name behind me.
Yeah, because now you're doing like, so what's going, when you work there, you're doing classes? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, so people will come in and basically they sit down and they just like customize an Air Force One. They have a few hours to do it, 3-4 hours. And basically I'm just someone that, helps them execute. So, we don't do like anything that like involves like deconstruction and reconstruction. That's more like the LA team. But again, I'm going to be working that class in February, so I'll be able to learn how to, like, sew and really, like, make a shoe from scratch.
What's it been like going up there? Because you've been into customs for a while. We talked about it on the first podcast, on that first episode. What's it been like to go to, like, the difference between being somewhere where you're in a creative space with all those people that are, like-minded,
Yeah.
and just doing, like, a custom at your house or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, going there, if I'm able to use that space, like, I'm going to get something done. And working with the people that have the same interests as me, like, I get ideas from them. They'll teach me how to do things. Even people that come in for a workshop making a shoe for the first time, like, I'll get ideas from them. So it's like, it's nice to feel inspired in that space because honestly, at like Rutgers, like, can't get shit done. So me going back there, it's like, I want to keep doing this. Like, now I'm back into it. I kind of have to do it.
You know what I'm going to say? Like, that part's so cool is because, like, I remember back in the day when, making your first customs.
Yeah.
Like, and then you were going through college. You're like, what are you going to do? We all kind of knew, like, we knew where it was going.
Yeah.
And, like, that, it's sick that you have that brand behind you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Ryan was here from, like, the jump. Like, I feel like I started a little before COVID, but I'd be at the crib. Like, people would be chilling, sipping, smoking, whatever. I'd just be in the corner, like, making shoes. But it was, like, cool to have that because, like, I would ask, like, Ryan or my brother, like, yo, what do you think I should do? And, like, they give me ideas. So,
Yeah.
everyone's got a different eye.
You guys, like, from the jump, so Sam and I get close to a year at Reds, obviously, during that whole COVID era. And then, Ryan, we meet that summer.
Yeah.
And what's funny is we went to college together. We were just talking about this before the podcast.
Yeah.
Like you said, Susquehanna University, which I said before on the pod. But that's where I went to. And my senior year was your second semester as a freshman, right? Because I took off in the fall, and then I went back for the spring. And so we were there together. Didn't know each other.
Didn't know each other. I will say the one time that and the reason I knew you when I walked into Reds was because I was like, I know him from Susquehanna because I remember you at one of the basketball games in your penny, your Susquehanna penny, going absolutely ballistic. I was like, I was like, look at this fucking guy.
Who the fuck is this wacko, dog? And then you walk into Reds,
like,
you're like,
who's this guy?
they're like,
Yeah.
yo, this is Red. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
That's so funny. Well, I told you, Perk, shout out to Coach Perk. I mean, he's a beast, but he's still coaching there now, correct?
Yeah.
Or what? They just came off a crazy, this season was the season that they did amazing, right?
Yep.
Shout out to them. And he's a great guy. And you could tell he was just locked in from the beginning because when I went there was, one of the first years that he started coaching. Like, I think it was my junior year was his first year.
His first year was actually that year. My freshman year was his first year.
Okay, so it was the first year, right?
Yeah.
So that was when I met him, was when I went back.
Yeah.
So, I had seen what was going on in the fall, and I had visited, once or twice in the fall. But then in the spring, it was funny because I didn't have class. Like, I had a 2-credit independent study. I was still eligible because that's all I needed to graduate. So I took off in the fall so I could just do that in the spring and play baseball. So I lived at the sports complex. And every day I'd walk in like at the same time, and he'd just walk in and he'd be, my last name's Palsy. So I'd walk in and he'd be like, what's up, Palsy? How you doing? Or every single day. And so I like him and then all the other coaches, like Finley when he was coaching. I don't know if he's still there, but he was a great guy. Like, I got close with all the coaches, but shout out to them for having such a good season. Did you make it up there at all this year or no?
I didn't. Just
you were coaching, right?
Yeah. We play one more game than them. So our last game of the season was actually their playoff game, which kind of sucked. I was trying to make it up there for that, but no, big shout out to them. That was the, Perk's first conference title as a head coach, and the first one at Susquehanna in a while. But it was a great season from the boys, and it was fun to watch from afar.
Yeah, I mean, they had a few All-Americans. They were just
ton.
crushing it. Yeah.
I got to give a big shout out to my predecessor, Dewey Simpson. He was right after. He was the center right after me. He won the award for the best center in Division III this year.
No shit, huh?
Yep.
Damn, dog, that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's a beast.
They really lit it up. They really lit it up.
They did.
So what's the origin story, I guess you guys should fill in, of you guys? Like how you guys became friends?
Yeah, I mean, high school. Cause,
High school, yeah.
You know, he went to school with my brother. Did you know him before Joe's?
No. Nick always tells the story. I didn't know him, but we were baseball players growing up, and Metuchen would always play in the East Brunswick, in the East Brunswick tournament, and Nick would always remember my dad because they won the East Brunswick tournament one year, and my dad was the president of the league. So giving out the my dad handed him his trophy when he was like 9 years old, and then. When we got to St. Joe's, he was like, that's your dad? He was like, I remember him handing a trophy. So I didn't know Nick, but then once we got to St. Joe's, we were boys for sure. And then, baseball season came and I was the third baseman and he was the shortstop.
Nick Johnson was?
Nick Johnson was
started off as a shortstop.
He was the best player on our team. So they stuck him at shortstop. Yeah. He was an outfielder at heart.
Wait a second.
You're Salem over the ball.
He was airmail, dude. Don't even get me started.
Good hands, that was his problem.
Yep. Susquehanna. I would
grow up.
Dude, I was at Susquehanna. I don't know what happened to my defense because I was lights out every year, like my whole life growing up. Went to Susquehanna and I started playing third base consistently in my senior year. I know the reason. I'm gonna get to the reason.
You would airmail, right?
The airmail central, dude. And finally, so my throwing partner was this kid named Dylan Glassmeyer, one of my best friends. Shout out to him. And he was a beast second baseman, right? He had shoulder problems. He had to get surgery and all that. And but it was just bad. And so when we would throw senior year, I couldn't long toss. So we would throw the max distance we would go when warming up was from bag to bag. So it was 90 feet. Mm-hmm. So I got to throw from third to first. And I was like, well, I'm not going to give up on Glass. That's my guy. So I never long tossed before the games. And I'll tell you what, that is what threw me off because, dude, I would field these ground balls clean and then I'd throw them. You'd think I'm trying to throw to another fucking stadium. Dude, these things would go. But then I'd get up and just drop bombs every time. Yeah, but you're telling me right now we got an All-American infield. If we had Nick Johnson right here, we got you with the three bag, you got you third base, you second base, Nick Johnson shortstop, and me at first base. Yeah, that's All-American, dog. That's what you're telling me right now. Yeah. So that's where you guys kind of become friends. And what year was you were in the same grade as Nick, or he's okay?
Yeah, we were
2011 to 2015, right?
Yeah,
St. Joe's.
And then after that year, I would pretty much live at their house over in Metuchen.
Yeah.
So him and his boys were always there, and then after a couple of years, he got to St. Joe's, and
then as it went on, me and him, because my friends are my brother's friends. It's cool to have that. A bunch of kids 2 years older, they're just as my friends as they are Nick's friends.
Yeah, absolutely. Holding it down. And then that summer, I got to know a couple, of the other people that were in the squad. They would come down, and we had the house was down. The year after Reds took off, everybody got, a lot of people got shore houses down in, Squan and Belmar. You guys ended up getting this house that was kind of off the radar in Wall. Yeah. Off the radar. And shout out to Wall, but I mean, they're farmers over there. It's a bunch of land, it's whatever. But how you guys found this house still to me is
Ryan found it.
Yeah. Are you the one who found it?
Yeah.
Late, too. It was late.
Yeah. Because we were trying to get things rolling. It obviously didn't happen. Just bad communication between us. But then I was just like, screw it. I'm going to try to, dive into the whole thing. And honestly, I found it. It was actually pretty easy to get the whole thing together. It's just still funny. We would tell people to come down. They're like, oh, you got a beach house? We're like,
if people could see where this is, I know people from around my area will watch this and they'll know, but it's literally behind the Lukoil, in Wall, going towards the Parkway North entrance.
Next to the Lukoil.
It's off the radar. It's right on the other side of
a hedge. You couldn't
next to warehouses and stuff. Yeah. It's the only house, only house around. But it's so funny because I was just thinking that, when you tell people, y'all got a house down at the shore this summer, and then they come and they visit. But I honestly that was better because you got off all the action. Yeah. You couldn't walk home, obviously. We had to Uber every time we were going back to the crib. but it was off the action, and there was no one around us. Like once we got back for the post games or whatever.
I mean, once we got JP speaker up in there, and then like we would sit there until 4 o'clock in the morning, like
just bumping
house music, like whatever, and being off the radar a little bit, we never got any.
There was no one around us.
Yeah,
we could just let it fly.
It was basically me and Ryan all summer too. Nick came down like less than 7 times.
And he was because he's in Philly, right? He was in Philly then too.
He was working. He was working in Delaware, living in Philly. It was tough, and then Gabe was working every day.
Gabe would still come down.
Gabe would come down a lot, and then we'd have the couple weekends where we would just have heads roll into the house for any given function, whatever. But that was a great summer.
Well, the cool thing about those houses, like even there, which was off the radar, it was cool because you guys have a core squad of people.
Yeah.
Like you guys are all boys. Like everybody's friends, everybody's close.
Yeah.
But when you talk about shore houses, like the relationships that form, if you can get a good squad that's actually going out all the time together and hanging out all the time, you become close friends.
Yeah.
Like everybody who left that crib, like us three now, super close, and Nick Johnson too. I just don't see him because he's down in the godforsaken city of Philadelphia. Like so, we never see him. But it goes like that a lot. I was talking to on the podcast I just edited, the Commodity podcast, which is there's one kid who used to bartend at DJs. Now he bartends at Jenks. His name is Steve. He goes by Slim Cooper. He's a beast. But he was talking about the whole Shore House thing. And those guys are both two of the owners of two of the owners of Commodity, maybe even, and Pugs too, 3 of them. They're all from Staten Island. And they're heavy down in Belmar in the summer at DJs, baby. So what's our outlook for this summer? We rocking it or what?
Yeah, I mean, I got a new crib down on 15th Ave with like all the Heights kids, a few Sea Caucus boys. Those guys are
they got a different mindset.
That Hasbrook has some height.
I think the funny thing's like last year, I mean, that house was a piece of shit. But like if people were like, yo, you have a house down the shore, we'd be like, yeah, nice 4-bedroom, oceanfront. Like it's mad nice.
Almost bought it.
Dude, I'm telling you what, we almost bought that crib. I said I was gonna be like, yo, I got Paporo. He'll come down. We'll trim up the whole backyard. Me and him alone.
Running.
It'll be me, Sam, and Paporo trim in the backyard like we were moving the 15-foot blocks of wood too. But where was the previous house that you were living in the past summers after the house that we all were partying in was on 12th, right?
12th, yeah.
Right across from the Belmar Inn.
13, 12th, yeah.
Yeah.
We almost got that house right across the street.
For this summer?
Remember, we looked at it, I think.
Oh, you're talking about that. Yeah, that's right. When we were looking before. But then that was for last summer. But then you went in with them. But that had Pete and Jake Green are in that house.
Yeah, I wasn't even supposed to be in that house.
Yeah.
I just stayed Memorial Day weekend. And they were like, yeah, I got you. And then I just went the next weekend and they're just like, yeah, just do a half share. And I just did it. But it was low-key a full share because one of the kids, he was always away. He's studying law. So, I mean, I just had his room.
It was a crazy roster that lives in that crib, man.
Yeah.
I mean, they really get the North Jersey boys are different. Yeah, they're different, dog. I mean, and I was in Hawaii the whole summer, so I didn't even really. Were you coming down pretty often or no? What was going on?
No.
I only saw him a few times.
No. Spent a lot of time at Jenks this summer.
Dude,
it was work. And then it was
Jenks, dude.
Yo, Sam coming hot, dog. Well,
yeah.
So Jenks, and I said this on the podcast with those Commodity boys, really took off the last 2 years. Like last year, what was going on there?
So when we had that house that summer, it was great. Like I think that's when it was really taking off. Like you would go there and there'd be a ton of people there, and it would be a lot of fun. I think this summer it was a little too much. People really got on board with it.
Everyone were.
It was packed. Like you were waiting in the line to get in for at least 45 minutes to an hour every single time.
Past the bathrooms.
You couldn't move throughout the bar. But one of our boys, Steven, has a beach house literally right down the road.
Oh, okay.
So we're literally
See, that's the thing. If you're over the bridge there in Point, you're rarely coming, over the bridge into going all the way to. I mean, especially if you got Jenks right there.
Like we were walking,
you're walking right to Jenks, dude. I mean, even the line is. You can go whenever though. You can just walk right there. You know what's funny is my family's from North Jersey, so they got a beach house in Point, like right there, right next to Jenks. But I never make it over there. I'm always because I'm in Manasquan, so it's like I'm Jay's by 90 until I die,
Jay's
dog.
by 90.
Jay's by 90. And then we have, of course, I've been trying, as I was saying before this podcast started, to get Caroline and Miss Papa Dop on here, Amanda,
Papa Dop.
because they were part of the squad that summer, which was unbelievable. They're friends with Kayla?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how that whole connection came in. Kayla Webb gets another shout out on the
Yeah, another
podcast,
one.
baby. Another
How
one.
we doing?
So that's
How we doing?
so that's how their connection
doing?
came through, and they just ended up being. I mean, they're so much fun. So now, what's going on with going back to the coaching thing right now?
Yeah.
What's going on? Like, what is the plan for spring when you guys get back? How does it work?
So like right now, first couple weeks you come back and it's really just weight room stuff, right? Weight room and conditioning stuff, kind of day in, day out of, lifting, running. You kind of do that for 3 weeks. Once you get back into it, then you start getting into, more football drills. Like we'll go out there, with, 15, 20 minutes a day, just get the guys' feet moving a little bit. Get them back into the idea of football, and you kind of build that until you get to spring ball, right? You get spring practices, which was different for me last year because being at the Division I level, you can practice in full pads, which is essentially a second camp. Where in Division III, you were out there, no pads at all, right? So you're actually literally just jersey, shorts, and so you're very limited, but you can do everything.
So spring ball for D3, the whole spring season that you guys have, no pads.
No pads.
But D1 you can wear them. Damn,
I didn't
that's
know
crazy.
that.
Yeah.
That's huge.
So yeah, and it's crazy, and I think that's one of the biggest differences that I'm finding is just the amount that you can do with these guys. These Division I guys, they're there all summer, right? Like they're once they finish classes, they go home. Once they finish classes in the spring, they go home for a week, right? And then they're right back on campus doing their weight training and conditioning and stuff like that. Where Division III, you go home, right? Like you finish classes in the spring, you go home for a month, and you're kind of hoping that your guys are keeping up with their regiment and stuff like that. But no, it's great. And then like I said, you hit spring ball, kind of like a second camp, and then guys come back for the summer. It's a good time for them. I mean, especially where I'm at, Monmouth, they're right on the beach, which is one of the things that I'm really jealous about. They get to wake up, they get to lift, they get to run, they maybe go to a class once or twice a week, and then the rest of the time is theirs.
That is true. I never thought about that. They're right there.
They're literally right there.
Yeah,
right.
and they're staying all summer. Now, what's the difference between so to lay it out between fall and spring? Fall is obviously the main season. That's when you guys are playing.
Yeah.
So what's the difference in terms of the lifting regimen? Are you lifting, is it once or twice a week in the fall while you're playing, if that?
Yeah.
And then what's going on in the spring?
Yeah. Spring, you really don't stop your you're trying to build strength still as you're going through practices. And like I said, it's a little bit different because you are in full pads and you're actually hitting and everything. So it's a little bit more recovery than Division III. Where Division III, you're literally just weight program through the whole thing. But in the fall season, it's a lot of recovery stuff. Guys are practicing 4 times a week and they're playing a game, which is essentially a friggin' war on Saturday.
Yeah.
Guys are banged up. So you're in there really trying to, just get your body back to 100. You got 4 days from when you were, beating up the last until you have to go back and do it again. So just really building those guys back up week after week because it's a long season, man. It's a long season.
4-day break in the NFL is crazy.
Yeah.
When you have to play on Sunday, then Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah. And
for them, they're getting rocked.
Yeah. They
50-pound.
Yeah. And once they, I'm not 100% sure, but I think once they really get into the swing of their season, they got more breaks during the week. Where our guys are college guys, you're still really developing them, right? These guys are close to their peak, right? And obviously they're still working and stuff like that, but there's not as much development going on where you can take a 2-day break to make sure that they're good for their game on Sunday or Thursday or whatever it is. So, it's really crazy and it's hard to gauge. That's one of the things as a coach you got to figure out is where your players are at and where they at physically, where they at mentally. Do they need a day here, right? Just like trying to take care of your team as best as you can is something that you don't even think about when you think about coaching, right? Like actual managing the group, but it's cool, and I'm learning from a good group, a great group of guys. Coaching wise, we got a great staff, and then the players are awesome too. So
you have a serious running back on your team, right?
Yeah.
Him and the Marshall running back were like.
I forget what it finished at one point. It was pretty cool. I sent it in one of our group chats that our running back was number 1 in Division I football in rushing yards, and then number 2 was the running back that was at Marshall, which is where Devin Miller's at. So
big
I said
homie.
that, the
big homie. Shout out him, dog. He's a
was
man.
goody. But we had a really good running back. Jaden Sheridan, he's like a little Barry Sanders. Like he doesn't get tackled very easily.
Beast,
and
he's that guy.
He's fast, man. He's fast. So, but yeah, it was a good season for us on offense. It was a good season overall. We're first year in the new division, so the new conference. So.
Oh yeah, where'd you guys move to?
We were in the CAA, so they were in the Big South before I'd gotten there. They were playing teams, Northern Alabama. They were playing North Carolina A&T. So a lot of really far down south schools. This is a conference that you would know. The CAA is going to be like Delaware, Rhode Island,
Nova, right?
Elon, Nova, William and Mary, like all those bigger schools near us, Delaware. So it was cool because that's like one of the better conferences in FCS football. So moving up to that, I mean, it was cool to be a part of that in the first year.
Yeah, and all the teams are close by. That's cool.
Yeah. We had one trip up to Maine that we flew to, and then we took a 6-hour bus ride to New Hampshire.
Damn.
So
when you were in upstate, what teams were you guys playing out there?
We were playing Ithaca. We were playing Hobart. We were playing like Rochester. We were in the Liberty League. But the main thing about that is like, we're 6.5 hours away from here, but they were nowhere near anybody we played, which was good for us when we play home games and stuff because everybody's traveling 2-3 hours to come. They got to come play in the cold, but those 5 weeks that you got to get on the road is brutal. It's brutal.
Sure.
But,
And so the traveling for Monmouth, is it any different or no? Because you guys are playing guys who are like the teams you're playing are pretty close. Yeah. So you're just you're driving out to most of the games or what?
Yeah, most of the games. Usually we'll have like a flight a year. So this year, like I said, we flew up to Maine, which was the first time I ever flown to a game, which was pretty cool. But yeah, mostly it's just like we went out to Lehigh, we went out to Nova. The big one was driving up to New Hampshire. But they're all pretty close. And that part wasn't bad.
And you guys drive up the day before a game?
Yeah. We'll usually drive up that Friday, drive down that Friday. We'll have some meetings and stuff at night, have a nice dinner, wake up, and it's game day.
And it's game day, baby.
It's game day.
Well, did you know that you wanted to coach right after college? Like when you were at Susquehanna getting ready to graduate and everything, was that the route you wanted to go?
Yeah, absolutely. I think going into college, I kind of had that idea. I always knew that I wanted to be in sports, and I was kind of feeling that out. Like going through the college process, I was like, do I want to try to find a place that has like sports management or something like that? Once I realized I wasn't going to be a professional athlete, which was pretty quickly, that was the easiest next step. And I'm glad I did it for sure. I mean, it's a ton of fun.
Still in the trenches too.
Yeah,
still part of the game.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool. I mean, you're doing everything with the guys. You're there, hours and hours on end. But at the end of the day, you're coaching a sport like this sport I've been playing. All my life. I'm out there. I get to go out and run around with these guys for a couple hours a day, right? And even at the times when it's a pain in the ass, I'm just like, I wouldn't want to be working a desk job. So I wouldn't want to be working a desk job.
I remember there was a time like you called me and you were about to like do something else.
Yeah.
And then I think like the coaching. Were you coaching before that? And then you stopped? I feel like it was like 2 years ago.
It was actually when I was coming. No, I think that was last year. It was last year when I was finishing up upstate New York. I wasn't liking it because of where I was at. For a couple.
You're off the
reasons.
radar up there,
and I was just like, do what you want to do, man. Do what you love, like.
Yeah, and you know, it is a tough profession, right? Like it's tough to do, but you know, I love doing it, and you know, that did come up once, and I remember getting on the phone with Perk, you know, just kind of calling him reaching out for some advice, and he kind of told me, he was just like, if this is ever something you really wanted to do, I would stick to it, because you know, once you get out of it, it's really hard to get back into it. And he said he would hate to see, you know, me give that up if it's something that I really wanted to do, right? And you know, that was great advice, and I'm glad. I mean, I'm really glad that I kind of stuck it out, because I think after this year, even just being a year removed from that, it was one of the best decisions I ever made coming down here and being able to work with that Monmouth squad. So
yeah, when you told us that you were going to Monmouth, like making the switch, I knew that was going to be a really big move. Just
perfect for you, just like being so far is just like you don't want.
Yeah,
it's tough being up there in the boonies, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in the
like,
boondocks.
You're 45 minutes away from Ottawa. Syracuse is 3 hours from here, and then you're another 3 hours past that. So, like, you're driving, and you're 5 hours in, and then you pull off the highway, and then there's just another hour of one back road.
Dude, that was the thing going up to Susquehanna, too, is like it's just those roads are. Yeah. I mean, if you take the back roads to Penn State from Susquehanna, it's one road, and it's all through farmland. It's unbelievable up there. Yeah. And so is ultimate goals NFL or what?
Yeah, for sure. You know, that's
still so young, man.
Yeah, that's always been the goal, and it's just something that I'm excited for. You know, I'm still a big NFL fan.
Got that. He's gonna shout out his team right now.
Shout out my squad, the New England Patriots.
I love how it has the number 12 on the back. Little kid
drew that. Yeah.
Well, we got to speak it into existence. We did it with Sam and the shoe surgeon. We said, "Listen, Ryan Starace, NFL coach.
Yeah,
time stamped right now on a Reddcast, baby."
Rutgers next, man.
That would be sweet.
You would love to be there.
They could use somebody in there that could drive them. You know, they got Shiano in there, and it was cool to talk about Rutgers just from being there. Yeah. Like, so obviously 2 years ago, you know, they had Bo, they had 03, they had Pacheco, they had Haskins still, and you know, the first three guys I mentioned are all like NFL guys. Yep. You know, I think Bo ended up with the Packers. And then I think he originally was with the Seahawks, and then he got to the Packers. 03's with the Buccaneers, and then Pacheco, of course, with the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, and you can't say enough good things about him. I mean, he's a beast, dude. He used to come to Reds. One of the most respectful guys, and like Sam was there a ton with him. I mean, and he was working a few shifts when he would come. But he came. I remember he came back and he signed the jersey for me because we had the number 1 jersey hanging up.
Awesome.
But they. Yeah, I mean, the Big Ten is no joke. So
no,
you know, they got tough competition. So, but you know, 2 years ago they ended up, I think, being right around 500. But the mindset that they had, I could see the difference between the spring the year before and then coming into that fall. But they just were never able to really put it all together and really, you know, put those wins on the board. You know.
Yeah.
And then this year was just tough. They didn't play that great, so they.
It's very hard for them to I feel like keep those 4 or 5 star recruits at Rutgers.
The Jersey guys.
Like, go to Ohio State, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough, and that's the thing is, like, all these schools.
What does that take to get these guys winning?
Yeah.
You think that's, the main factor?
Does Monmouth have a lot of Jersey guys?
Yeah. Yeah, we got a ton. But honestly, I'm going to say we work majority out of the DMV down in Maryland. You know, a lot of outside, like around Baltimore. You know, that's where we got a lot of our guys. Yeah.
Well, you guys know. I mean, you had back in the day Neil Sterling, who went to Manasquan High School. He was a grade older than me, And man, he was just unbelievable. I mean, he broke Miles Austin's receiving record.
Really?
At Monmouth. Yeah,
didn't know
he
that.
set the. I don't know if the record is still Neil, but he broke the receptions for a wide receiver, like the yards, and then of course he went and played in the NFL for a few years, and now I think he's a trainer for maybe it might be for the Jaguars. He might be a trainer for the Jaguars right now, which is the team that drafted him.
He's getting those boys rolling then.
Oh yeah,
He's getting them
Yeah,
rolling.
he is getting them rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. He was something else. But I just know there's a lot of, Monmouth has had a history of having some good local guys.
Yeah, absolutely. They, and it's cool because these guys, all their families are literally right there, and it's literally homebred. They're right on home ground, right in their backyard. So, it's definitely guys that we love to get, right, and it's a great opportunity for them to, play high level football right in their backyard. You know, like there's not, there's three Division I schools in New Jersey, right? Princeton, what's the third? Rutgers, Princeton, and Monmouth.
Rutgers, Princeton, and Monmouth.
Princeton, and Monmouth. But no, it's great. Yeah, I think Rutgers. It's tough. It's tough. I mean, the Big Ten is obviously the SEC kind of ruled it for a little bit, but I think the Big Ten is there, right? Like I think they might be. It's 1A, 1B. Take your pick on the best conference in America.
Michigan's like that.
I mean, Michigan, Ohio State, like they're all Penn State, like, but you're gonna have your bumps going into it,
Yeah, and Rutgers just played Penn State in basketball too. They just waxed them at home at the Rack or Jersey Mike's Arena.
Jersey Mike's Arena,
Yeah,
dude.
but they end up Jersey Mike's Arena, dog.
It's
the Rack.
The Rack. I mean, if you knew it as the Rack, there's
gonna
not
say,
many people who really call it Jersey Mike's Arena. But I mean, that place, come on, it's the most
Nobody
electric.
loves Jersey Mike's more than me,
Dude,
but come on.
that's the
Mike's
most
is like
electric
that.
arena in the country. I think is the Rack. It's unbelievable.
It's hard to win there.
Yeah,
It is.
If you're an away team coming into the Rack, like it's tough to beat Rutgers at home.
It's sick because he's from East Brunswick, and when we were in high school, St. Joe's and EB had like a huge rivalry. Like that's when we had Carl Towns.
This was ridiculous.
This is
like,
prime time St. Joe's basketball.
It was primetime New Jersey basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was like they had so we had Carl, we had Wade, we had Raven, we had Marcus, we had Brian, Jimbo. Like we were nasty, and then they had Rob,
Amir Bell. This kid went to Princeton to play.
Gary. Like they were nasty too, and they were like one of the best public teams, I think, probably in New Jersey history. And
They beat us twice in the regular season one year, and we played them in the chip at the Rack. Oh. In like EB, like how many kids go to that high school? 3,000?
I have no idea.
Plus? It's a big
when
ass
I'm gonna
school.
like so
They would
I
take
went
up.
to back in the day. Rutgers played Villanova, and Villanova was like a two or three in the country, and Rutgers beat them on a 4-point play, like pretty much at the buzzer. Dude, they were down by a couple points, and 1-3. He banged it.
No.
And it was electric. But I will tell you that East Brunswick St. Joe's game, I've never seen anything like that.
I believe it.
No,
They
it's
had
insane.
East Brunswick, they called it the Bear Den, had a freaking army in the far
student
side
section.
bleachers, the student section, filled every centimeter of that. A high school student section.
Dude, high school basketball in New Jersey, they get like the student sections.
Yeah.
They get after it.
It was sick, man.
And then we ended up winning in double overtime.
Yeah.
we ended up taking the W.
We ended up taking the W, but no, that was some of the coolest experiences, like being able to go to St. Joe's when we were that good at basketball and have those guys on that team.
It's just different level. Like
Yeah.
even like when St. Joe's played Montverde, they had Ben Simmons, D'Angelo Russell, and we're in high school. Where was it at? Kane, I think.
yeah.
And it's just a packed gym watching 4-5 future NBA players.
Yeah. Literally.
Yeah, you guys named some big names there.
I mean,
didn't
like,
realize.
just if you think about that game, right? Ben Simmons, D'Angelo Russell on one team.
Someone
And then it
was
was
like,
Carl.
Yeah.
Wade Baldwin,
Brilliant.
he ended up playing in the league for a couple of years. He plays for Bayern Munich now. Their basketball squad over in Germany. Brian ended up being like the point guard at Ole Miss. He's playing overseas. Marcus Towns was the dude that he hit one of the buzzer beaters in one of the March Madness games for Loyola Chicago. We had some dudes. Like it was an awesome experience just being able to. We were so invested. Like
Love that.
yeah, like going to the basketball. We were going to every game. It was a great time.
Dude, in high school, I loved the basketball games. That was like, I was the number one fan of Manasquan. I was in there. And it's so funny you tell the story about, like, you went to Susquehanna and I was going nuts. You know why, though? Because I was friends with, like, a lot. Obviously, like, you're friends with the basketball players. Like, especially at Susquehanna, like, talking about college. Small college. Come on. They had Weidlich. I mean, dude, that was back when they had Brandon, too. And, like, you're friends with these guys, you see them working out all the time, getting after it, like in the gym, they're shooting all the time. Then you go to the game, like you want to see them win. And then you see Weidlich just draining threes, throwing. I was throwing up the W for Watchung Hills, and it's Weidlich just and everybody's like, why is this kid going nuts? Like, because you had the student section, which wasn't that big at Susquehanna. Like they had people going to the games, but it wasn't crazy. And then I'd be sitting with like, you know, the baseball guys. We never really did the student section thing. We would kind of sit off to the side, but I'd be going nuts. Yeah. And that's so funny that you pointed that out.
They were good, too.
Yeah, they were really good. They were really good.
Steve was a baller.
Oh, dude. He's a beast, dog. Yeah. Watchung Hills has produced a serious amount of absolute studs.
And Dave Weidlich.
Come on, Dave Weidlich. Dude, and then I forgot. So you guys were close at college or no? Like, you guys were friends?
He's still one of my boys.
He's the guy, man. Dude, we used to, it was so funny when I found out that he was coming down. Like, you're like, yo, Dave Weidlich's actually coming down to stay at the crib that we mentioned earlier in the podcast. I was like, no fucking way. Because I didn't realize that, obviously. I didn't know at that point. You guys were close. Me and him used to get after it in the weight room. You know, he was big into fitness. So, and, of course, his brother I was pretty close with, too, because he was only a year younger than me. Yeah. And he was good friends with a couple of the kids that came for baseball as well. And so, you know, I was just at those games going crazy. You know, anytime Weidlich's hitting a three, which is every time he's shooting the ball. Anytime he shoots, it was going in. So, but
Dave, of course, right?
Dave. But you know what I want to switch topics here. I want to talk about is what Sam Johnson sends me a text the other night. Last week, he says, listen, we got to run this podcast back. He goes, I want to talk some real shit. So I'm wondering. I don't know if you were sipping or what was going on. If you were, I want to know what was going through your mind.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I haven't seen you in almost 2 months.
2 months.
Like. Yeah, so I guess I want to ask, like, what's the next step for you?
Damn, flipping it on me, dog. Flipping it on me too.
Are you excited for like the next chapter?
Yeah, this is a great question actually, and a lot of people are also wondering this because obviously, if you know, most people have seen that, you know, Reds New Brunswick is now closed. We could not make up the back rent that was owed from the whole pandemic. So if anybody's wondering what happened, we signed to the lease and we opened in August of 2019. Obviously, you know, 6 months later, whatever, March of 2020, everything gets shut down. We're closed. We opened up at limited capacity the following year, and that's kind of the year that it built, but it was still limited capacity the whole year, even though I was pushing the limits. So that whole time, we still owed that rent we signed for, and luckily the landlord was working with us because of what was going on. And then after everything opened back up, we had that great fall that was nuts, and then even the spring was pretty good. And then we opened up back this year, and, you know, everything was going good. It's okay, but, you know, we were looking at the numbers of how much rent was owed still, and it was just based on the numbers that we were doing now, we're not going to be able to make it up. So that was the reason that we closed. We offered, you know, a buyout, and they accepted it. So it saved us a lot of money, and it was most likely going to be, if not to start 2023, at the spring, at the end of that year, you know, because we really only had 1 year left on the lease anyway, but we knew that if we offered a buyout and they took it, that was going to be our move. So, you know, we got the other two Reds, Newark and the Meadowlands, and now we're opening a new spot in East Rutherford called the Roosevelt. So there's another restaurant opening up. It's like a more like old school North Jersey. It's got a speakeasy, isn't it? Like that type of feel. It's cool. Oh, it's crazy. It's cool. We'll definitely take a trip up. But
for sure.
What I'm doing, like for me, I was telling you before the podcast started, it's just for anybody who knows what went on at Reds for those like years that it really took off, it was something that it had so much meaning to it. Like that year when you guys, you know, started coming, when it was, just you the six of you that we told the story about on the first podcast that one night, and that started the whole thing. That year was like, there was so much meaning behind that year. Because
it wasn't just like going to a bar.
Yeah, it wasn't about just going out. It was about, everything that was going on and all the rules they were putting out and all this. Once I realized people needed a place to be together, that's when I realized, all right, I got to push the limits as far as I can. And we got to make sure people have a place to come together and be together and get a break from everything that's going on. And they were pushing the regulations so hard that year. It was such a back and forth battle. And it was very difficult mentally to just like go back and forth with what was happening every day. They were coming in and check in, and it was nuts. You were there. And it was crazy. And so after that, the following fall was just nuts. And that was the fall after our summer when we were all together just going crazy all summer. And now we get to, this year, and everything's back open. Everything's kind of back to the normal flow of things in terms of the college students. But around New Brunswick, there's not much going on, so there's no happy hours and stuff. So it really became more of a private event type place. Like, all the sororities and the fraternities, they would do date nights there. They would do their parties. And so once I realized that most of the time on the weekends, it wasn't massive groups walking down to be at Reds anymore, I was like, all right, we could still get them all in as long as we, make it into an event. And so we started doing the date nights, and we would do mixers, and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I would basically just try to fill it with 3-hour time slot private events. And so that's what it turned into. And that was cool as well. And it was, but then we come to the end of the year, we talked to the landlord. They wanted to try to find somebody as soon as possible. So we probably would have went with that model moving forward. But to like wrap it back around, just thinking about what it was this year currently to what it was that first year and the year after, the meaning behind it was just not there. And so like now I'm like, it's closed, and I have so many more connections now. I have so many more friends that I met, and close friends, which is cool. But the main thing I'm doing is the podcast.
Hell yeah.
Because, even going back to my friends from home, I've told them, it's cool because Corey and I have really been getting after it since the year started. There's a lot of people that I want to connect with that I met through Reds that I normally wouldn't be able to see if I was working Reds. And then all my friends from home, they're not up in New Brunswick. They're not partying still like that. So now I get to reconnect with them. And now I get to stay connected with all the people I met during my, tenure at New Brunswick at Rutgers. Yeah. So now I got this network of people that I can, have this podcast with, talk to, and just tell all the stories of what we've done and talk about what's going on in each other's lives.
Oh, yeah.
Which is what the point of the podcast always was. The point was always to sit down with my friends and talk about what's going on and catch up with people. Because this is actually something I wanted to ask about too is, and you probably know because you've been a few years removed. You're now 2 years graduated, or on the second year after. Once you graduate college, like you have this time period where everybody is all together. And you don't have to go anywhere, and everyone's just there. And anything you want to do, you could do it split second. Yeah. One text to the group chat, everybody could be where everybody's at. Then you graduate.
It's tough.
And you start to see, like, okay, I'm not seeing this person as much or that person as much. And everyone's getting jobs. And people are down in Philadelphia. People are up in New York City. People move to California, Florida, Miami. Hopefully, we're all going to be there one day. That's the main, what I'm saying? But, it starts to get tough to stay in touch with people. And that's always been tough for me because I always tend to form a close relationship with most of my friends. Like, I really, most of the people I know, I end up having a close relationship with. And it's tough to not see these people, especially when you go from hanging out with them every day. But what has that been like since you graduated?
Like for me, like I'll always keep in touch with people, but it's nice because even if I don't keep in touch with them, you pick up like where you left off. Like I saw one of my best, he'll always be one of my best friends, Pete DeMeglio. You've definitely met him before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Metuchen kid. I haven't seen him. I saw him last Thanksgiving Eve. And then I saw him like a month ago at Tommy's. So like a year, we didn't see each other for a year. And we just like picked up where we left off. And we were like, that's like a good thing. Like we don't have to keep tabs on each other. We'll always be boys. And that's how it is for like the rest of my friends. Like even if I don't see you, like what's good. Yeah. Like sometimes you got to just like focus on yourself, figure out like what you want to do. Yeah. And, they know what time it is, so.
Yeah, I think everybody falls into that, especially right after college. it was cool to see the switch. So like people would come back and visit, and I'd talk to them, and I'd be like, hey, what are you doing now? Like, have you talked to this person, that person? Because like at one point they were coming into Reds or wherever with this crew every single day. So then you get to talk to them. You're like, oh, have you talked to this person? They're like, nah, actually, I haven't talked to them. And it's crazy because I went through that already, you know? And now it was like re-going through, because at Reds, the 1 year, that was the only place to go. So everybody was going to be there. So now following along and trying to find. But I think when you graduate, everybody's kind of trying to figure out what the hell they're going to do with their lives. Yeah. You know, it's like it's tough to find direction, especially, I mean, if you don't know what you want to do, it's tough, you know? Yeah. It's a toss-up. You don't really – people are just getting jobs. And I think what a lot of people find is as soon as they graduate, they get a job. And this is interesting because you're talking about coaching. Like you had that in your mind and you go for it, and now it's working out. And even you said it, like during that time you called Perk and you were like kind of questioning. Yeah. But, you know, people graduate and they don't really know what they want to do, and they get these jobs and they're trying different jobs, and they just nothing's clicking. And you just have no direction. Like, and you just have no, it's almost like you're searching for like happiness because you're working a job that you may not like. It's like, you know, people always knock the 9 to 5. I don't really find anything too wrong with it. It's not for me. It's not. But, you know, people do get into these 9 to 5s and they're just like, what the hell am I doing? You know, I'm sure you guys have friends that are like that now. And like even talking to the most recent graduates, it's like a lot of people aren't. It's cool because you're going up to the city right now and doing this thing, and that's kind of what your passion is. Yeah. You know, what was that like with the Susquehanna boys? Like after you guys graduated?
It was. I feel like it was different for kind of everybody. I think a couple guys found that really quick. You know, found things that they loved. You know, even within those 9 to 5s, you know, like kind of the good side of it, right? If you find a 9 to 5 that you love, you know, like whether it's the location that you're working at, whether it's the people that you work with, whether it's the work that you're doing, you know, I know guys that, I mean, screw it, even if it's just a paycheck, right? Like, you know, if you fall in love with that 9 to 5, it's awesome, right? Yeah. You know, but I think it was different, right? Like everybody kind of had their own path where, you know, a couple guys, it took, you know, 6 months to find a job. Another guy found like, you know, a year to find the job. So everybody kind of going through that. And, but the whole time, you know, we're on the group chat saying like, you know, you're going to find something, or, you know, like, like it was always something that you never, guys were never stressing about, because we were like, yeah, don't worry about it. Like we were stressing about that a couple months ago. If you had a job, you were stressing about it a couple months ago and you found it. And if you didn't, you had your boys saying like, we're good, right? Like,
yeah, you know, a lot of people, that's a good point, because you always see these clips about people who are like, oh, like don't text people for 2 months and see if they reach out to you. It's like, dude, everybody's got shit going on. Yeah. I don't expect them to reach out to me. Yeah. Like you just said it before too. It's like, you might not see this person for a year, but if it was somebody you were close with, you see that person and you get hyped. Like I see somebody I haven't seen since high school, and I used to be like close with them, and I'm getting hyped. You know,
I wish we had the cameras on when I walked down here before.
Unbelievable. Yeah. I know we have. It's been so long, you know, and you form these connections with people, and I think that's something I draw when I see these videos all over the internet about people that are like, you know, once you start focusing on yourself, you're going to see that you're going to lose friends, and I've never really had that. Because you talk about the whole pandemic era. Once Red started taking off, I went from talking to certain people every single day to talking to no one and only focusing on what was going on at Reds. There was just so much going on. But then it's like we sit down to do a podcast maybe, and we pick up right where we left off. Yeah. And we catch up. So I don't really get that whole I do get it, because there are certain people where you may, you know, not end up staying in touch with them as you go on. Yeah. But everybody's got stuff going on. Everybody's kind of focused. If you had a relationship with them at one point, there's no reason to just write them off unless they like did you wrong.
Never.
You know, I see all these podcast clips of people that are just like, don't reach out and see if they reach out. It's not like that. I don't know. I've never had a friendship really that's like that.
I think if it's intentional, that's wrong, right? Like if you're saying like, hey, let me, I'm not gonna text somebody for 2 months. Let's see how my friendship is in 2 months, and like, that's wrong. I think that's, but I think there is some value to saying like, you know, there are people that you're going to be really close with, you know, and you will lose touch with them. You know, whether it's you lose touch with them for, for a couple months, right? Or for a couple years if they're off doing their own thing. But I think there's power to saying like, you got to keep going, like, right? Just because, you're not losing touch with this kid, doesn't mean life stops, right? Like you got to keep going with it. But like, it all comes back, right? Like if you do see once, that person you lose touch with again, like that's all it is. You come back, and I think that's the people we are, though. I don't think I don't think everybody has that.
Yeah.
Like you can just pick up right back where you left off with somebody.
That's a great point. Yeah, I actually, when I was talking to my buddy Jim Gallagher, he actually is on the podcast. He asked me to be the officiant of his wedding, so I get to marry him and his girl Jackie, which is cool. But I was saying that I was like, you know what? I think it just happens to be the people that you end up forming these. It's like the type of people they are and the type of people we are. Like it just ends up. There are a lot of people out there that you could, that you could meet and you can kind of tell. Yeah. And I think if you just have the feel for who's authentic and genuine and who's not, then it ends up working itself out. I think it works itself out if you end up if you feel like what you're doing is really moving in the right direction for you and what's going on. The one thing I will say is over the course of my years at Reds, what I noticed about a lot of the students and all the kids that were coming to Reds and like the friend groups, it seemed like there was so much support for what everybody was doing. Like when I look at like your guys' friend groups that I ended up becoming friends with, but I came in later. You guys were all friends for a while. And so I look at the support that everybody in that friend group gives each other. It's impressive because like we just mentioned the big homie, Dev. Yeah. Every time he's making a big play, every time he's doing something like amazing on the field, it's a 100% chance that every single person from the squad is sharing his post of what he did or what was going on. I see that, and it's something. I don't know if it was just when I was coming up, social media was like Facebook. It was like you weren't sharing, but like now with Instagram and all this, like I just see that everybody's always down to support. I don't know if that's something that everybody can find with the group of friends they have.
Yeah, for sure.
I even say to people all the time, like I go and I'll bartend at Newark. And it's like you go from a packed house, wall to wall, shoulder to shoulder, and it's crazy. And it's all people. Like you think about that first year, we had 4 security guards. It was Talon, Isaac, Kowalik, and a pro guy, like watching the floor, as opposed to now, we had like 6 or 7. Yeah, like we call them the pro guys.
That's awesome.
Official last
year. Yeah. So,
like the Secret Service or something.
Basically, you think about the reason why is because everybody knew each other. It had meaning at Reds. It was a community, and the fact that I pushed the limits the year before is what allowed that to why that transpired was because of that, and everybody knew what Reds was, and everybody knew the feel. Here and there, you had some issues, but really nothing. And then the next year, we have like you looking at 6 or 7 guys on the floor, and less people in the bar. Yeah, so it's like. Trying to explain the meaning it had is tough because I don't get the feeling of what I felt that whole entire year it built and the year after with much else now. And that's what's been tough for me that's probably been the toughest part for me since it closed. Those first 2 weeks when we closed, it wasn't official, so I couldn't tell anybody. And then as soon as I knew it was official, I called Sam and Brant. And I was like, yo, I got to talk to you guys. Hit me up whenever you're available. And I told them the day before. Yeah. And then that was like the only people I told. And then right before I posted, I wanted to make sure the staff knew because I didn't want them to just be blindsided by it. So I made sure I hit them up like a few hours before. And, they all got back and said, thanks for the opportunity. And, everybody knew it was coming. So then I made the post. But the 2 weeks after that, it was tough because you think about going from how much success Reds had to having to close, especially when you build. It's so tough because especially the fact that it built into a successful business. Like if you look at it, like it was a successful business and then you have to close it because of what happened. Yeah. Again, everything happens for a reason and one door closes, another one opens. There's going to be opportunities, but the thing that I'm having the most, the toughest part of it was like trying to find something right after that has as much meaning to me. Yeah. It's like, that was it. Yeah. Having Reds and being able to stand for what I believed was right and allowing everybody to be there and have somewhere to come together, I just realized that whole year, that's where I was supposed to be. And then you think about the friendships I formed through that, like that whole summer after when we were all going out together, like all close friends, you know, for the rest of the time. And now that closed and it's like, damn, like all the good that came of it, I wish it wasn't over, but you know, on to the next.
Listen, I'm going to say that, I'm going to tell it how it is, dude. What Reds did was just straight disruption. Like, I'm going to, like, seriously, like, I, you know, when I used to, you know, we would go out in New Brunswick and, you know, when we were leaving the house, my parents would ask me, like, where I'm going. And I would, you know, I'd say Queens or Huey's or, you know, before Reds. These are all places that have been there, right? Reds comes in on a drop of the dime, you know, and just took over. Yeah, took over, disrupted the game.
It was
right, like push back all these dudes that all these bars that have that had been established for so long,
decades,
you know, and just made a, you know, you just make a left turn, right down the right down the Reds,
right down the east of the wall, and you end up.
Yep. And look, that's what's about to happen with the podcast too. Come on,
yeah, Reddcast, baby, let's go.
Reddcast,
well, we were talking about it before too. It's like whenever I do a podcast, I just feel good after it, and I get a piece of that feeling of what I felt during that, you know, course at Reds, you know, during that time. So it's I know it's right. And again, I don't have anything lined up right now. You know, I'm helping my dad out at Newark, and we have the other 2 Reds. I could easily just go back and do that, but it just doesn't feel the same. You know, it doesn't feel the same, especially talk about Reds New Brunswick. Like, that was my spot. Mm-hmm. I was Red at Reds New Brunswick. Yep. Like, that was it, and running the show. And then you go to the other spots, like, you know, my dad's running it, my uncle's running it. Newark's got, you know, the bar manager. Like, they got it all down. They've been doing it for years, and it's all set to go. So I go and I help out, and I'm just kind of, you know, I'm more behind the scenes, just, you know, there. And again, I'm just bringing the same energy I've always brought, but it ain't the same as running the show in New Brunswick. I mean, especially it was a club, it was my vibe. You know, I had that Jays vibe, baby. I mean, we were just running it for a while. So, so that's, I mean, my outlook for what I'm doing is I'm just trying to find something that's going to help me feel the same way I felt when I was at Reds, because I realized that was what I was supposed to be doing at that time. So I want to get back to that, because, and that goes back to what I was saying when people graduate. Not being able to find that. Like, I hope, and I said this on the Brant podcast, which is an unbelievable episode, is I hope people at some point are like find what I found at Reds in their life. Because if they can do that and they can feel that, then that's where the happiness lies. So if you haven't found it, again, it takes time. I mean, you think about how long I was out of college and doing all my stuff before Reds even opened, you know?
Yeah,
it took some time. So I think you just got to charge on and keep going. But it's cool that I get to stay in contact with the people that I met there, especially from the year that Sam, like that first year. You think about everybody who's coming in, it's like everybody was a close group of friends.
Yeah, I mean, I brought that up because what I've been thinking, like, since you told us that it was closing, like, I'm excited for you. Like, you could still do something you love, like with the podcast and some of the real shit I wanted to, like, you know, relate to. So, like, when I first started making shoes, it was, like, fall, winter of 2018. And then summer 19, you know, I was doing it here and there, probably made, like, 2-3 shoes. Summer 19, got out of a relationship. And, you know, I'm home, you know, going to Middlesex, and I never thought I was going to be at Middlesex. Like, you learn, like, once I got to Rutgers, like, the amount of people that, you know, are in the same boat. They transfer and they go there for 2 years. But at the time, like, I was lost. So I started making shoes, started, like, really getting into it, like, getting pretty good at it. And John asked me to make a pair of, like, custom Vans for his girlfriend. And they were URI themed, so University of Rhode Island themed. And I made them, like, put the logo on the back. Like, they were pretty sick. And I remember sending them, like, to my ex, because I was like, she would appreciate them. And I remember she writes back, she's like, maybe you had to lose me so you could, like, do this shit. And I remember she said that, and I was like, damn, bro. Yeah. And then I really started, like, getting into it, man. You find your way, you find what you love. But that's something, you know, like, one door closes, another opens.
Yeah, you know, the amount of people that, and I don't know if I've even said this on one yet, but the amount of people who showed love and reached out to me after, you know, the post went live. I mean, if you look at that post on my Instagram page, it's insane.
So
like
many
it's
comments.
that the thing got shared so much, so many comments, so many likes, and I got so many texts. Everybody's hit me up saying thank you. So many thank yous.
Yeah.
You know, that it was cool to see that, because it really made me feel like, you know, we did something good at Reds. You know, it wasn't just about being the bar. I never really had the intention of it just being a bar anyway. Like, it wasn't just to make money. Like, it was cool that group of people ended up being there for that specific year, and it ends up all coming together. But that's true. Like, people, it's ups and downs always. There's always some kind of setback. Like, I just talked to my buddy Dan Valerio. It was a 2-hour podcast, and the amount of you know, I trained him. He played pro baseball. There's all these sagas that go on in his life, and like throughout them all, he's just getting hit. Like, he's just getting knocked down, and you just keep going. You know, so at some point, you know, these things happen, and then you just got to keep, you know, adjust to it. It's very interesting to see that I'm filming all these in the real time of when that happened, because we started the podcast this fall. You know, when Reds was open, and then Reds closed. So now we get to see where it goes from, you know, this point on, which is going to be cool.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm excited. Yeah, it's cool.
Exciting.
It is cool.
It's cool. It's cool because when would I get a chance to do something like this? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is, you know, getting a platform to speak, you know, it's cool. It's cool as fuck to just be able to sit here and bullshit on camera, and, you know, like.
Yeah. It's the best part. It's the best part is sitting down with your friends.
Yeah.
The conversations you have with your friends, like, it's very natural, very organic, and you talk about a lot of the stuff that a lot of these people with big platforms also talk about.
Yeah.
Like, these conversations are being had between people that are just not famous, you know? And the best part for me, it's always been, the goal of it was always to catch up with my friends and see each other and see what's going on. Like, this is the first time I've gotten to talk to you about coaching since you went to Monmouth. Like, since that summer, 2 summers ago. Yeah. You know?
Absolutely.
Since before that, and we haven't even got a chance to catch up and talk about it, you know?
No.
Because life goes on and everybody's working. Of course, you did come and order 30 white tee shots off rip that one time at Reds. That was last fall, though, you know? So,
fall,
for the culture.
Yeah,
for the culture,
for the
you know?
culture, man.
Nick Johnson was
For
in the
the
building
culture.
too, you know? So, but I think that's a very underrated part of life, is talking and just catching up with your friends that you haven't seen in a while. And I think a lot of people go down the route, what we were talking about before, where, you know, they might lose touch with one of their friends, and they may just kind of go on and not really think they need to, you know, go after and try to stay in touch with them. But I think one of the best things that I've found is, you know, being able to talk to your friends and catch up with them as you go on. It's always refreshing.
Yeah.
It's always refreshing. And it's always cool to see what everybody's up to.
Yeah.
You know, and our friends are doing cool shit. Yeah. Like, you don't even have to go. That's why I love to do the fucking podcast. Like, I don't need a big time guest. No. Our friends are doing cool shit. Yeah. Like, you're coaching at Monmouth, you fucking NFL bound, and you're fucking working with the shoe surgeon, like, at his fucking shop. Yeah. Like, and then I talked to my boy Drews, and he's managing Bankroll Hayden. Like, he's got his own fucking record label. Like, people are doing cool shit.
Brant,
you know what I'm saying? Like, Brant's about to blow as a fucking DJ. You know what I mean? I think that's going to be one of the coolest things, is I think the people I've met specifically in the last few years, I think a lot of those people are going to do big things. I really do. And so I think it's cool that we get to watch. And that's kind of going back to what I was saying about everybody showing the support. It's going to be cool for everybody else to be there and watch that journey as they go too. It's it's fucking, it's early. It's early, baby. It's always early.
It's always early.
The best was when we went to Jay's at 12 o'clock. So for anybody, you know, when we go out, we'd rip it. It'd be 10:30, 11 p.m., 11:30. We'd have been, you know, a couple hundred white tee shots deep. If you wore, I mean, with our squad, it was like 20. And then we'd be about an hour and a half into the send. It's 11:30, and everybody's looking around like, damn, how do we get here? And I'd be every single time I'm going, listen, it's early. It's early. And then we go at 12 p.m. and we all look at each other and go, it's actually early. Like, Jay's has only been open for an hour, you know?
It's really early.
Yeah. It's so. I mean, we got to line up a few sends this summer for sure.
Oh yeah.
What's the outlook on the shoe spot? Like, what's going on with the classes moving forward here for the spring? How do they do it?
It just goes by month. So, like, end of the month, we'll know how many workshops and stuff there are. NFL events, you know, the decon recon class where they, like, learn how to make the shoe. I didn't get to work it in December. I had the flu, so I was out. So I missed Missed an opportunity, but there'll be a new one.
How many classes did they do? Does it change every week or
Yeah,
change?
like, it's so random because someone say there's like nothing on a Wednesday, someone could like book it on the Wednesday, so it could be like a last minute thing. So you never really know like what's going to happen throughout the month.
And you're just getting settled back in Monmouth now, getting ready to go.
Yep. Ready to hit the ground running, man.
Back in
Get
action.
these guys right. Yeah.
Well, listen, this was a dope conversation.
Yeah.
This is a trio that, listen, in history. That's why I said I had to rock the Senders Kentucky Dunk Lows with the white laces. It's all time in front of the vault, which we'll get a shot for. I wish I brought the customs. And right behind Sam, you guys can see the customs there.
D Wades are my favorite.
Yeah, you do like the D, and also you got some LeBrons, eh?
Yeah, but grew up on LeBrons.
These are crazy, bro.
Did I ever like tell you the story when D Wade? I talked to D Wade on the phone.
This is with your cousin, or no? No,
cousin,
yeah.
My cousin was at the Masters, and so he's with a bunch of these guys like Josh Allen, Adam Schefter, D Wade. So we're actually this is when we were living at 93. We're day drinking. We go to Stuff one day, and we get back to the house. I'm kind of faded, so I take a nap, and I remember I'm sleeping, and like Tom comes in my room. He's like, "Yo, wake up! Like D Wade wants to talk to you." I'm like, "Bro, get the fuck out of my room! Like, what are you talking about?" D Wade wants to talk to me.
Yeah, Dwayne Wade
I
wants
go back
talk
to
you.
sleep. He comes back a few minutes later. He's like, "Bro, like check your phone." Like D Wade. I'm like, "Dude, like can you like let me rock, bro?" Comes back again, and he's like, "Yo, actually, like check your phone." Check my phone. Mad missed calls from my brother and cousin. Like, you got to answer. Pick it, like, he calls me, and I'm just like, it's just D Wade. He's like, "I heard you got my shoes." Like, I was like, "Yeah, like, I got a bunch of them." And it's crazy because they only sell D Wades in 1 or 2 stores in the entire U.S., so you really can't get them. And he was like, "Yo, how do you get them?" And I was like, "I know a dude that works down in Miami," and he basically just would plug me on, like, every release. So it was, and I just showed him one of my favorite pairs, and the only ones I had on me, and he was just like hyped to see that. So it was cool to be able to talk to him about shoes. Like, it wasn't like, "Yo, D Wade, like, I'm a big fan." It was just like casual combo. Like, "Yeah, I got these." Like, but
Dwayne Wade.
yeah, D Wade.
With Dwayne Wade. Yeah.
Yeah, your cousin, he's connected, man.
That's how I got the surgeon shit, basically.
That's right. Put you in the chat right with him, right? He's
Yeah.
just like
Just plugged it up.
Surgeon.
awesome. Well, yo, thank you guys again. Sam, thanks for hosting us here at the Vault.
Appreciate you having me,
Ooh,
man.
Vault.
At the
Yeah,
Vault,
the Vault.
no doubt. I thought we were gonna get a Mrs. Johnson cameo. She came down before you, but dope. All right, with that,
absolutely.
we're out, baby. Let's go.